Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners public hearings. You guys could quiet down, please. We are about to start, and we have 4 public hearings set for 3:30. We're going to take them in a slightly different order than what's listed for some particular reasons. But first up is going to be the 4th item, which is permit review process annual code update. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider and accept public testimony on the permit review process annual code update, item A31 on the 24-25 development code docket. The public hearing is not being live streamed due to technical issues, but is being recorded on Zoom. We are very close to fixing that issue. The Zoom recording will be posted to the Thurston County YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. This is a hybrid public hearing. Those wishing to testify have joined by Zoom, emailed in comment, or mailed in comment, or are present. If you wish to testify, please visit the Thurston County homepage online and select BOCC meetings, hearings, and work session agendas. The information to join this remote hearing is posted there. Ashley Arai, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development, will provide information on the topic. Assuming anyone on Zoom wishes to testify, your name will be read out. You do not need to sign up in any particular fashion. You have 3 minutes to provide public testimony on this topic. Time may not be given to another person. When you are called on, please state your name and area of the county in which you reside for the record. Public hearing is now open. Ashley will present some background information, summarize any written comments submitted, and provide any additional information requested by the board.
Good afternoon. Today's public hearing, as you referenced, is for the permit review process annual update, which is part of the 2024-2025 official development code docket. This annual update addresses emerging changes in state law and corrects any inconsistencies or redundancies within CPED's land use application review process. This year's package includes 4 elements. The first are general clerical edits. The second is updates to permit review timelines consistent with Senate Bill 5290. The third are revisions to State Environmental Policy Act categorical exemptions, which align with recent state law changes to support local housing initiatives. It's important to note that all existing critical area protections and stormwater standards would remain in place with these changes. The proposal would make it easier to develop housing within urban growth areas while maintaining rigorous environmental review for projects in rural parts of the county. The fourth are clarifications to review authority for quasi-judicial land use appeals. Under this proposal, appeals of local land use decisions would be directed to Superior Court rather than being heard by the board. Following the public testimony today, the board may close the hearing and take action on some or all of the proposed amendments, and that can either happen today or at a future regular board meeting. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions before we hear from the public.
Questions for Ashley before we? Can you, on the third one, you did SEPA categorical exemptions. Could you say a little more about that? You did go over it in a work session. I just want to, I got questions about it this week. So just a little more about which types of applications would be affected.
Yeah, so most of the changes are focused on making it easier for housing within UGAs. And so essentially raising the threshold. So multifamily projects up to, I'm just going to look for 60 units. Is that it? Up to 60 units within a UGA would be able to come in without a SEPA application. However, all other critical area protections and standards would apply. Outside the UGA, there was a small change raising it to 6 units. So 6-unit subdivisions would be able to come in without SEPA. Right now it's at 4, so it's a modest change.
And is this driven by something in state law, or are we driving this?
Yeah, no, so there were changes in state law specifically to try to support local housing initiatives. So state law outlines what kinds of projects can be made exempt from this environmental review. And so we presented that to the Planning Commission and got support for essentially making it easier for building within the UGAs while still retaining SEPA review out in rural county.
Other questions for Ashley?
I have a follow-up on that, Chair.
Yes.
Am I understanding correctly? I may have gotten this wrong. Up to 60 units, so this would allow for projects with up to 60 units to come in without the SEPA review. And where is it now prior to the changes that are being proposed today? You said 4?
No, 4 is in rural county.
Oh, okay.
9.
I was like, I must have missed something there
Yeah.
because that's a big difference.
Yeah,
Okay.
apologies.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
So the number you said is 9?
9 being increased to 60, and all other standards would apply. So all of your critical area protections, your stormwater standards, your building standard, all of that stuff still applies. Just the procedural requirements under the State Environmental Policy Act would be exempt.
So if the intention is to make it easier to build within the UGA, does that just conceptually apply to the UGA because we think that anything up to 60 units is probably gonna be developed in the UGA, or does it specifically outline that this only applies within the UGA?
So we could extend it beyond the UGA, but since you really can't develop that kind of development without municipal sewer and water, doesn't make sense outside the UGA. And it was the Planning Commission, it was discussion amongst the Planning Commission to try to make it easier to develop housing in the UGA while still retaining that extra level of environmental review outside of the UGA.
Okay. So, sorry, I just wanna make sure I have this clear. So if there were an application to come in for like 40 units outside the UGA, or a rezone application comes in to try to like increase density on a parcel that might be outside the UGA, would they be able to develop up to 60 units without SEPA even though they're outside the UGA?
Nope.
Okay,
SEPA would still apply.
okay,
And you can't run the infrastructure that's required outside the UGA, correct?
You would not be able to extend municipal water and sewer outside of the UGA.
Could you please turn up the volume? We can't hear back here.
I will try to speak louder.
Well, all of you.
Yeah, the microphone is not for amplification, it's for the teleconference recording. So that's why when she said she'll try to speak up louder. But we do have seats right here available here and there.
Did you hear that we have front row seats? If you'd like to move to the front, we have available seating for those that can't hear.
Commissioner Mejia.
Thank you. I have a question, not really a question, but, so looking at the comments, it seems that the main item here that we've received public comment about has been about the board's involvement in the quasi judicial process. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And are there any other areas through this permit review process that you received comments from?
I think South Sound Bird Alliance did submit comments relating to more than just the appeal process.
Okay,
But that was the only one I recall in my quick scan of all the
thank you
comments.
for that. So I'll be sure to highlight that one.
Okay, anything else for Ashley? Okay, we will go to public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
First up, Lee Reiner, Charlotte Persons on deck.
You go first, please. I'm still doing my notes.
Okay, I'm kind of surprised because somebody must have signed in for me.
Betsy Norton signed in for you, according to what I've got on the notes. You don't have to testify if you don't want to.
Okay, I'm Charlotte Persons from Northeast Olympia, and I represent South Sound Bird Alliance, formerly called Black Hills Audubon Society. SSBA sent in written comments on the proposed permit review changes. And so I'm just going to highlight some of those points. We want to reinforce the majority vote recommendation of the Planning Commission to reject the proposed permit review process changes. We believe all permit decisions should remain appealable to the Board of County Commissioners to ensure political accountability and to better ensure access to appeal by all county residents regardless of income. We are particularly concerned that the wider array of projects now exempt from CPA would allow more staff discretion in what we learn about, frankly. We kind of depend on the SEPA process to find out about big projects. One area of special concern for oversight is decisions which allow staff to use discretionary authority to allow new special uses, decisions that may include applications for data centers, hydrogen hubs, lithium battery storage, small modular fission reactors, natural gas exploration, or other power plants. All technologies which can significantly increase risk to the environment and wildlife. Second, appeals to the municipal court instead of to you are expensive because they require hiring a lawyer, often an expensive lawyer who understands this kind of law. This especially precludes appeals by low-income communities, and I would not be surprised if there was a big drop in appeals. Okay, third, appealing only to the municipal court instead of you limits decisions in terms of what they can consider. The municipal court can only consider current law, while you can have some discretion to apply county policies or aims of county programs that haven't yet been made into law. And remember that ordinances and laws always lag policies. And I'd like to give you a little example. I just made a horrifying, I think everybody in the room would consider a horrifying list of possible energy projects or projects that could use a lot of energy or water. And right now, in the final draft of the comp plan updates, there's a section on that. But of course, there are no ordinances. It's going to take you a while to get that on the docket and create those ordinances. And meanwhile, we could have these kinds of permit requests come in. So thank you for considering keeping things as they are. Right now, they offer us all the best protection and require you the most accountability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for, so this doesn't work?
It does.
It does.
It helps the people here online.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having this hearing tonight. When I heard about this issue,
Can you state your name?
Lisa Reiner and Olympia, Washington, over 35-year resident, many of us are concerned that we want to have the Board of County Commissioners hear these permit reviews, these issues before this board sitting here to make some determinations and not let it go to municipal court. We feel that we have elected you, we have vetted you, we have spent, the community has spent a lot of time looking at your policies, seeing the kind of people. Do we trust you? A lot of times, sometimes we trust you, sometimes we don't, depending on which policies. A lot of times we don't trust you and then you get voted out. And so this is an issue that many of us feel dear to our hearts because we trust you and we want to continue trusting you and we trust your judgment. We trust your experience. We know that you yourselves have spent a lot of time studying these issues, but we also see some of you have certain bents to this or that way. And we're concerned if you're bent toward gung-ho, let's make this place into another Tacoma, and some of you, it seems like, are bending that way. Maybe some of us will say, hey, what about future generations? What about clean water issues? What about the wetlands? What about critical areas? You're going to throw that out with the bathwater and keep laying these huge developments, these warehouses into our county? Or are you going to think about future generations? Think about quality of life issues here in Thurston County. So every time you open your mouths, we're seeing what you're saying, where you're coming from, and we trust you because a lot of times of us in the communities will work for you. We've gone out and done work for your campaigns or whatever because we like your bent and we trust you. But turning this over to municipal court directly from the planning is not a good idea. We want to hear your opinions, we want to see your bent, and quite frankly, we want to see which way the wind blows. So I thank you for your service. I know this is not an easy job, it's highly stressful. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate it.
Rhonda Larson Kramer is next.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Larson Kramer. I live at 1814 East Side Street, Southeast Olympia, and I urge you to not eliminate the board's role in the hearing appeals of land use decisions and give it over to the Superior Court, not municipal court, but that's okay. This proposal would shut down the only affordable and democratic appeal path available to ordinary residents. If you take away the board's review, people like me, your constituents will be forced to appeal directly to the Superior Court. That is a process that costs thousands of dollars and is stacked against residents from the start. Judges must presume that the hearing examiner was correct. They can't overturn a bad decision on policy grounds, and even when it's obviously wrong for the community. The board doesn't have to wear those blinders. You can, and often do, step in when an examiner's decision violates the intent of our land use plans or common sense. That's your superpower, and this proposal would take it away. I'm speaking from experience when I say that hearing examiners rarely rule against developers. Developers have consultants, they have attorneys, and they have deep pockets, and they have familiarity with the county's process. It's residents, not developers, who most often need to appeal. And when we lose before the hearing examiner, this board is our one realistic way to be heard by the officials that we elected. And it's not accurate to say that these cases are too complicated for you all, or that they take time away from more important things that you do. Democracy takes time. Listening to people making hard land use decisions is exactly what you were elected to do. Commissioners have to make hard budget decisions, hard personnel decisions. Complexity is the name of the game when governing the entire county. You don't get elected to the board without having a higher than average ability to understand complexity. And it's not accurate to say that this will save money if we go this route, because the court doesn't, the cost doesn't disappear, it just shifts to the courts and to the residents who can least afford it. Finally, please remember the Maytown Sand and Gravel case. Those commissioners acted courageously to protect the community from a devastating industrial project. Insurance covered nearly all the cost, and it was supposed to. The real disaster would have been letting the project go forward. Removing the board from appeals is not about efficiency, it's about removing accountability. It would silence the public and weaken one of the few checks that we still have in land use decisions. Please keep this process in the hands of the people who are elected to represent us. Thank you.
Anyone else in the boardroom who did not sign up on this topic? We'll go to folks online. Anyone online who would like to provide comment on this topic of permit review process code update? Ms. Fitzhugh, you have 3 minutes.
I want to speak in concurrence with other speakers who have already spoke. I would like the board not to give up their role as the place of being able to appeal a decision. We are in a time right now where huge amounts of development projects are being proposed to the county every single week, it seems. I just learned today of another absolutely horrific one. And if decisions are not made in a good way and it winds up having to go before the hearing commissioner, I would agree that in my experience, the decisions I hear about are bad ones, not good ones. There is often the need for an appeal, and citizens simply cannot afford someone said thousands of dollars, but really it's tens of thousands of dollars, to take an appeal to the courts. And then when it goes to the courts with this assumption of correctness, I mean, really, like, what is the point of appealing if they have to have this assumption of correctness about what the hearing commissioner's already done? This strikes me as very similar to a process that has just happened where people were suing the Department of Natural Resources, and the Superior Court struck it down, saying that they have to assume that DNR is operating correctly. These kinds of barriers for citizens make it really hard to challenge when bad things are happening. We have an example right now with Johnson Creek that is winding up going before you as an appeal, and it's going before you as an appeal because the citizens can afford to bring that appeal. If it was going to Superior Court, it would not be appealed. There wouldn't be the money to do it. It's something that needs to be looked at. So, you know, citizens are having an increasingly harder time to have a voice about things. You also have in place where we can't testify about an issue that's not on the agenda. Some of these proposals that come forward, they're not on the agenda, so we can't bring them to your attention before something happens, and now we can't bring it to your attention on that bookended end of the thing. So I hope that you will not make this change. Thank you.
Madam Clerk? I think we overshot on the heat.
I was just gonna say.
we can turn it down.
Becoming like an oven, so
What?
sorry, Commissioner McGee. All right, Mr. White, you have 3 minutes. You're on mute.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. Thank you. Thanks for having this hearing on this issue. And I have similar concerns around the equity issue of citizens having to hire attorneys to go to Superior Court. And also, I'm just giving you a perspective of, I used to be a planner for past boards of commissioners, for regional planning as well, cities and counties, or the city and the county, and then also the county of Grays Harbor. And I have to tell you, as a staffer working with commissioners, we always try to do the right thing, right, in terms of what's in the law, all the details, getting it right. And it was frustrating to me personally, oh, another public hearing, and I'm not sure these citizens really have the right story or not, right? It took me about 10 years, or 10 hearings, not 10 years, to learn, oh, hold it. They're bringing up their own knowledge that's better than mine. And I'm missing it. And it only comes out, not in the hearings examiner, it only comes out in front of the board. And so I shifted my opinion on things like the usefulness of hearing examiners are good, but also keeping the board in play, just like has been said. So oftentimes we have policies that are emerging, and lots of public health and land use issues are emerging as projects are being considered. And only the board can kind of pull it all together and tie it in, versus a hearing examiner that's really more confined, or Superior Courts that's more confined to the hearing examiner decision. Other piece of this is you have really good staff here. And the staff isn't always heard by the hearing examiner because it's more confined. And also sometimes, like I did, staff details may be, maybe there may be a mistake or something. Hearing examiner typically defers to the staff. The board can look at it more generally and go, oh, and draw more information around that. So I appreciate the opportunity to testify in this. I appreciate the perspective of trying to offload this level of work. It is intensive, I agree. And I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Janine Lindsay. You have 3 minutes.
Hi there, thanks. I would concur with the people in the room and others online who've talked about not changing this process. It would be a very burdensome issue for the public to become involved. in issues that they have every right to be involved with, and we certainly hope that the county would not be proposing this issue in order to decrease the ability of the public to be involved in those decisions. So I just came today, for example, from two different meetings. One was with a Good Governance Coalition full of expertise on all sorts of issues from land use to politics to environment, and that's the public. And then another meeting with the Port Action Team from Olympia Indivisible, in which we're going to be asking the executive director of the port to make this group a stakeholder, an action team in their processes, because there are mayors and city council members and long, deep wildlife scientists as part of that group. I mean, my point is that, as Mr. White was just saying, the public comes with a plethora of expertise and knowledge that every jurisdiction should value in making decisions about all sorts of issues when it comes to the county. And I'm hoping that you will not suspend that ability for the public to be involved and to challenge the county at times when there really should be other strategic issues considered on issues. So please don't allow this to happen. We need to preserve the right for the public to be involved as easily as possible in these issues, and to do otherwise would be a high bar.
Okay. I see no other hands up. Are there other folks online on this particular item?
Yes, I don't see the hand button.
Okay, go ahead, sir. What's your name?
My name is Brett Clubb.
Okay, go ahead.
I live at 4135 Cooper Point Road. I've lived at this location for 34 years, and I've been involved in land use planning issues at the county, state, and federal level for that entire time that I've lived here. I've testified on numerous occasions before this board and hearing examiners and such, which is, I'm honored to be able to do that as part of our democratic process. Now, we have a federal government right now that is trying to kick the blocks out from under our entire democracy. And to me, it feels like our local governments should be a bulwark against that, not actually having hearings to talk about decreasing the amount of democratic process within the system. It boggles my mind, frankly, that we are even having this discussion about eroding democracy. We elected you to be our representatives in the democratic process, not to vote to give away that role to hearing examiners, unelected hearing examiners, and judges. There's 1 acre right next to me that is proposed for development. The county turned down developing that acre for decades. Now somehow something got approved. We had a hearing on Monday, and I may very, very well have to appeal the hearing examiner's ruling on that decision to this very board, which I am willing and able to do if necessary, and honored to take part in that democratic process that we have enshrined in Thurston County here. But if you make these changes that are proposed, not only myself, but all the residents of Thurston County will lose their rights to appeal before this board. Democracy will take another hit in this country, and I can't afford to hire a lawyer to challenge the hearing examiner's ruling. So, you know, what may be a really bad development right next to my house will go ahead. And so I'm very concerned about that. And I'm asking you to do what we hired you to do and practice democracy every single day in that room right there. Wish I could have been there. I'm sick. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else for this item online? Not seeing any hands or any unmutings, so that will conclude the public comment. Board has options. First, there's a possibility of, well, we can have a discussion on this, or we can close the public hearing and take legislative action, or defer that to a follow-up work session. We're not under a time constraint, it's my understanding. So is there any discussion?
I thought there were time constraints on this particular item. On the
Actually, do we have a time constraint related to approval of any element of the four that we have before us?
So the first, general clerical edits, none. Items 2, updates to permit review timelines and revisions to SEPA respond to changes in state law. So there's a little bit more urgency. However, this is a development code update. So you can take whatever time you need to have a follow-up work session on those 2 items. The appeal decision is a community-driven discussion. Doesn't respond to any changes in state law. So that one could either be removed or tabled for future action.
Okay, Commissioner Klaus did have to leave for another meeting and left me the word that she would like to have a follow-up work session would be her preference, not to approve any element today, which is fine with me.
Fine with me.
So in that case, if everyone's in agreement, we would just close the public hearing and move to the next. And we would follow up on this at a follow-up.
Okay.
Any comments or thoughts from the board on any of the testimony heard?
Well, I've spoken to a lot of the people in the room and I have had discussion. I disagree with a lot of what I heard about the board's role. It's not about eroding democracy. The suggestion that we are allowed to apply policy and basically disregard the law is absolutely erroneous. We were just reminded of that this morning by our lawyers. We sit as lawyers applying the law. And if we don't follow the law, it'll just get appealed to the next level anyway. It's not going to reduce the expense to anyone to have us apply policy, disregard the law, and then have the applicant have to spend even more money. Because a lot of folks do hire lawyers for the appeal. You don't have to, but many people, including, folks of not tremendous means, hire lawyers, come to us. If we don't follow the rules and the law, then they just, whoever doesn't win the appeal just goes to the next level. So it really just adds another layer of non-legal folks like us. I do have a legal background, but most of my seatmates do not. And then we just put our 2 cents in, sometimes following the law, sometimes not. I've seen it go both ways. I've seen really good hearing examiner decisions. So I think it complicates things for not just us, but for applicants as well and appellants. But it's a big decision. Like Lacey has taken themselves out of the process. I've talked to a couple of their council members. They're happy with that decision that they made. MRSC, Municipal Research Service, recommends to take yourself out. Our prosecuting attorneys recommend to take yourself out. It leads to a lot of problems. So I have a different point of view than a lot of the folks that spoke, but it's not something that we have to move on at any time. I'm willing to have a more in-depth discussion about it at a later time.
I think talking about it more is good. I really appreciated the comments that I heard today. I don't come from a legal background, so I've been generally appreciative of the non-legal analysis, but I don't know that that's right either, to look at people's how people can use their own land through like a political lens when there's laws that we establish through democratic process, and then we have experts interpret those laws. So I don't know, I'm still up in the air on how I feel. But hearing somebody say that just pushing it through policies be darned and letting insurance companies pay in the end, and that's okay, that's how it's supposed to work, is a seemingly irresponsible way to look at things. So just saying the insurance companies will handle it if we make the wrong decisions still costs us in the end.
I'll just say really simply that thank you for all that spoke today, that I am more inclined to be on the side of leaving the appeals as something that we continue to do. And so that's where I'm at.
Commissioner Mejia?
Thank you. I'm leaning with Commissioner Menser, seemingly because, I mean, when the attorney, usually it's our prosecuting attorney who's giving us basically like, you guys should lean this way because, and, you know, the board usually follows that. I have seen very rarely, and I think the one instance where we did, through a lot of pushing, right, and we appealed back to the hearings, remanded back to the hearings examiner, and, you know, it was basically her decision was reaffirmed, and I am on the, just being on this board and just seeing the kinds of matters that have come in front of the board. And sometimes I've seen that there is a lot of confusion with residents, especially serving as a policymaker. And, you know, they're approaching you and there's ex parte communication, and I had to recuse myself from a hearing because, you know, I had constituents who were very interested in a matter and, you know, they reached out to me as their commissioner and, you know, it was too late before I realized that this matter was up for appeal. And then, you know, it takes away my ability to vote on something. And, you know, it just, I think that sometimes like those lines can be blurred and we have to follow everything with ex parte communications. We really have to serve in that role. And so I think that I'm leaning towards, I appreciate all the comments that I've heard here today. I think it's very important, but I'm leaning in removing the board from the process.
I want to go back to something Commissioner Fournier said I thought was really important, more succinct than how I said it, which is that the democratic process is putting the code in place. And then the code has to be fairly interpreted, and to say that you don't really like the way the code's written and you're going to come to the commissioners and have us overturn it, this is where my legal background is an impediment to me, because that drives me crazy. Like, I know my job is to sit here and understand the law and apply the law in consistent fashion so that people have predictability and understanding. And if they don't like the law, then the democratic process is to come to us and have us change the code. But to come to us and think we're going to just willy-nilly just overturn it because we don't like the way the result is turning out, I can't do that. Like, to me, that's a violation of my code of ethics as a former attorney. I just can't do that. Our prosecuting attorney's office says we may not do that, and we're putting ourselves at risk in various different ways if we do that. So if that's what you think's happening here, I think you've got a misconception of how this process is designed to work. So that's what I'm really concerned about. So anyway.
You know, I'll just say, you know, from my perspective, you know, the process itself is always a learning opportunity for us to be able to be thinking forward about changing the code, right? And that if we take that away from the board, then it just goes automatically to Superior Court, and we aren't even seeing, you know, we're not keeping abreast of what the concerns are across the, you know, I mean, so it's just another way for us to be in the loop around public process and some of the issues that we're seeing across the county. That's the way that I see it.
And what I've heard from some City Lacey council members is that removing them from this process has allowed them to do exactly that, to be better advocates when there is a matter going in front, because they're able to do that more now than they were before, where they had to restrain, like they couldn't talk to their constituents after a matter was put on appeal just because of the ex parte communications. They were able to start advocating for different things before that. And so I've heard the opposite on that end, as well as being able to advocate more from people who have removed.
I would say your ability to better articulate my idea has swayed me somewhat, because you're absolutely, the democratic process is establishing the rules and the laws that everybody understands, and the you know, the right and left that they know where to exist in. And the ability to manipulate that is somewhat undemocratic. So I appreciate that comment.
Commissioner Grant, I understand what you're saying, that it definitely is true that when you're knee-deep in a specific case like we get on the appeals, you really see how some of the codes don't work in a way that you might have liked to have seen, and then you get, so I get that. I will just say that our hearing examiner at the end of the year usually submits a letter to us where she kind of summarizes, like, here's things I'm getting a lot of appeals on, things where I think your code is unclear and I struggle to apply it, and you may want to consider, so we get that input. Now, then it's up to us to sort of think about that and put on the docket and actually make the change, which we've done in the past on a couple of things. I'm looking at Josh. I know when he was CPED director, that happened. But that's a way for us to get at what it's not as immersive as being in it yourself, but we do have that avenue for learning about things through the process that we can improve through the democratic process of a docket item. And that's what some of these other permit process improvements are about. I mean, some of these are driven by state law, but this is the kind of process that we would get to go, yeah, let's tweak the codes to make them better and clearer. Anyway, that's whatever that's worth. Okay, so I think the idea though is we're gonna do closing the public hearing and then setting a follow-up. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move to close the public hearing on item 4, permit review process annual code of.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, and our public hearing is closed. We won't have any motion today on these items. We will have a follow-up with staff at a very close in time point, maybe in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Does that sound good, County Manager?
Yep, absolutely, Chair.
Then let's move to our second item, where we're gonna go to item 2 on the agenda, which is the Martin Way Land Use Amendment and Rezone. So let me just,
Here, you wanna go back to 1? You wanna go to 2, not 1?
that was for Commissioner Klaus, who actually had to leave, so it really doesn't matter, because we were hoping, she was hoping to get, to see the first 2 before she had to go to another meeting. It doesn't much matter, but
If we can do 1, only because I know our,
staff.
Public Health needs to jump on the same meeting that, Commissioner Claus.
Okay, you're right. Let's do item 1 then. This will be public hearing for the 2024 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, or CAPER. And let me just give the setup for that. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider and accept public testimony on 2024 Thurston County Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report. Hybrid public hearing. Those wishing to testify have joined by Zoom, emailed in comment, or mailed in comment. If you wish to testify, please visit the Thurston County homepage online and select meetings, hearings, and work session agendas. Information to join remotely is posted there. Dr. Jen Freiheit, our Director of Public Health and Social Services, will provide background information on the topic. Those on Zoom will be read aloud. You do not need to sign up in any particular fashion. 3 minutes to testify. Time may not be given to another person. When you are called on, state your name and address for the record. So we are going to open this public hearing, and Dr. Freiheit will present background information, summarize any written comments we've received, and provide any additional information requested by the board.
Great, thank you. Dr. Jen Freiheit, Public Health and Social Services Director. And let me move to, if I'm able to, the 2024 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, also known as CAPER, for Thurston County is an annual summary report explaining how Federal Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG, and the Home Investment Partnerships Program, also known as the Home Program Funds, were expended for the program year of 2024, which covers the period from September 1, 2024 through August 31, 2025. The report is a requirement of the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, which also requires the county to conduct an annual public hearing for the review of the county's performance and solicit any public comment about the programs. The report must be submitted to HUD within 90 days of the close of our program year, which equates to November 28th. To date, the public comment period opened on October 28th, and we have received no written comment to date. And at this time, I'll turn over the last 2 slides to Alex Purse, who is our Affordable Housing Program Manager, to talk about the accomplishments in both CDBG and Home.
Good afternoon. Alex Purse, Affordable Housing Program Manager. On this slide, we have CDBG accomplishments. So these are the accomplishments that we're reporting on in this annual CAPER.
report. So the first table is all the housing and public infrastructure activities that we're reporting on this year. These include critical home repair programs that were funded in program year 24, as well as a few projects that were previously funded in prior program years. That includes a Homes First acquisition for Prism Street home, the completion of the Tenino Quarry Pool Phase 2, and then the Habitat for Humanity Talichin homebuyer down payment assistance project. And then the blue table is showing the public service activities that were funded in program year 2024 and the beneficiaries that we have to report that were served through those programs. I'm happy to answer questions on any of those if there are any. If not, we can move on to home.
Questions on this one? Nope, keep on going.
All right, and then lastly, for our home accomplishments this year, for program year 24, we're reporting on Low Income Housing Institute, Lehigh's. They completed their Martin Way Phase 2, which is also now known as Lotus Court, which had a total of 6 home assisted units. Homes First also purchased a single family home. Well, the Prism Street project that I previously mentioned had both home and CDBG funding in it. And then lastly, Homes First also completed the construction of 2 ADUs, accessory dwelling units, for affordable rental housing. Other projects that we have with home funding that are currently underway are Habitat for Humanity's Talichin Townhomes and their Yelm Longmire, which they're also calling the Mill Crossing project. And then the Low Income Housing Institute is getting underway on their France Anderson project. So all those will be your future CAPER reported projects.
Thank you. That concludes, and happy to answer any questions.
Questions before we go to public comment? All right, I think we're good. I don't have, is there a sign-up sheet? Anyone sign up?
There was no sign up.
Did anyone come to provide public comment on this topic? Seeing none in the room. This is the CAPER Public Health Housing Report.
Sorry.
Yes, you did. Sorry. Mr. Ballard, you have.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Terry Ballard. I'm a 35-year veteran, and 29 of that years was towards an active duty retirement. I'm all about veterans, and I'm about the homeless. The homeless aren't provided the means to get off public assistance. They're provided the means to stay homeless. Okay? You don't have a home extortion fund just to provide a homeless person a place to live or a place to stay or rental property, and you don't provide him an out. When you take 15 social workers and you decrease that down to 10, and in 2023, the homeless population rose from 800 to over 1,000 homeless, and 87% of those homeless have a drug addiction. The next 10% has the next 4%, has a mental illness. Not saying that the 86% don't. So you're talking about 90% of the homeless that need help, and they're not getting the help. They're not getting into drug programs like they should. They're not even helped through the courts. And I provided Ms. Klaus with one of mine, where a homeless took residence in one of my remodels. Okay, he's out. The sheriff's not providing anything because he needs to get rid of that for budget. The county prosecutor's not doing anything as far as trying to get that homeowner back the money that this homeless person took. He's supposed to be provided a ways and a means while incarcerated, ways and means to get a job and get off public assistance, but he's not provided that as well. And the health department needs to do that. As far as the veterans are concerned with, the veteran program, the Veterans Assistance Program, RCW 73.08 is a disaster. We're using emergency funds to help people administratively. That's not what the fund's designed for. Today, I showed you a Senate bill that said the Washington Department of Veterans Affairs are supposed to provide grants for that purpose. And we have two people down there making $200,000 or $100,000 on administrative costs through the Veterans Fund. That's irate. We're paying rent. That's irate. And it's all coming from the Social Services Department. Okay? So what is going on here? Okay? We're not helping people. We have a 5-year program that I looked at, and we're not getting rid of homeless. It has that whole plan has nothing to do with getting homeless. We're getting more homeless. We're at 1,000 homeless in 2023, up from 800. That's ridiculous. We should reduce it, and all of you don't know how many homeless you have and how many are of public assistance, and you support and defend each one of these districts, okay? You are clueless on the homeless, as well as clueless being the Health Department and the Veterans Fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pollack.
Thanks, Jen.
Anyone else in the boardroom? How about online for the HUD CAPER report? We got Mr. White. Go ahead.
Hi there. Yeah, Gordon White, live in the city of Olympia. Due to some past injuries, I've been bound to just walking to get to my jobs, as well as when I was farming. I had a lot of that happening as well. And I have to tell you, both as a farmer and my walking around, a lot of interaction with people who are just on the edge, whether they were homeless or not. Oftentimes I hired people who were homeless. I hired veterans to come work on our farm. I had firsthand experience working with them. And then in my walking around time through Olympia, Washington, and Lacey and Tumwater, I could always see, there but for the grace of God go I. I had health insurance. I had family to take care of me. My injuries were such that if I didn't have that, I would have been homeless. So I have some insights into the nature of things. And every person I ever hired on my farm, others that I've interacted with on the ground, they all come into it in a certain way. My observation is, and it's why I'm such a big supporter of what the county and cities are doing to engage the homeless and all the challenges they have, what great return on investment we're getting. I was able to attend the CAPER review last night in the city of Olympia. It's wonderful to see the city partnership with the county. It's a very integrated program. It's getting better and better every year. I appreciate the leadership you've all shown on this. I know it's not easy, and it does feel like it keeps growing, but there's so many other factors that are pushing people out of their homes. It's not an easy thing, and I appreciate the focus and discipline you've all and your staff have given to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. White. Anyone else online for this item? Okay. So we have a couple of action items.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed, and now we have,
Move to accept the program year 2024 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report and authorize the Department of Public Health and Social Services to submit the report to the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Second.
motion and second to accept the CAPER report and submit it to HUD. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Alex, for all of your work on this. It really is appreciated.
Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, let's go on to item 3 for our third public hearing, which relates to the Martin Way Land Use Amendment and Rezone. I'm not going to go through all the same advisements, same rules apply. Director Arai will provide information on the topic. Those on Zoom, you'll be read aloud. You'll have 3 minutes. Time may not be given to another person. State your name and address for the record. We're going to open this public hearing. Ashley will present the background information, summarize any written comments submitted, and provide any additional information requested by the board.
So this public hearing concerns the proposed Martin Way Land Use Amendment and Rezone. This is an 8.17 acre parcel located at 7809 Martin Way within the Lacey Urban Growth Area. The property is currently split zoned with the front portion, about an acre, zone mixed use high density corridor. While the back portion, approximately 7 acres, is currently zoned low-density residential, 0 to 6 units per acre. The applicant is requesting to rezone the back portion of the site, which would allow for expanded high-density residential and commercial development opportunities in the Martin Way corridor. Following public testimony today, the board may close the hearing and consider including this proposal in the annual comprehensive plan amendment package scheduled for action on December 16th. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any written comment? I know we got something today from the master builders. You may not have even seen it. It was handed to me today.
I was able to see that one. Any additional comments?
One public comment from, I believe, a neighbor.
Yeah, not a lot.
It's not like the board has seen that one.
It looks like we did receive a comment from Ms. McGill, and they are asking the county to reconsider the rezone. Reconsider adoption of the rezone.
Questions for Ashley? Okay, we'll go to public comment. I've got Mr. Pettit signed up.
Good afternoon. My name's John Pettit. I live on Rich Road, and I happen to be assisting the applicant of this particular project. This is a very unusual and probably the easiest element that you may have to deal with today. Just to let you know a little background, the property itself was actually short platted in 1975. And a single piece of parcel, because the line for a section line runs across between the north portion and the south portion, it ended up getting drawn into the other zoning element along with everything that was on the south. The significant part is that when I would show you is the actual map of it in case you're unfamiliar with it. You can see where the north portion, which is along Martin Way, he happens to have a business which is located directly, also next to it. Plus he purchased this other property down here with an understanding, according to what I've heard, that he would be able to use it as he anticipated. For purposes of the board, I want to make clear that the Lacey Planning Commission, it's in the UGA. The Lacey Planning Commission, as per their letter that they sent, they put in here, I'll read one particular. On August 28, 24, the Planning Commission moved to recommend that the site-specific rezone request of 7809 Martin Way East from low-density residential to mixed-use, high-density corridor. All Planning Commission members were in favor, and the motion passed. So it's 100% supported by the Lacey Planning Commission in the process. It was then moved over to the Thurston County Planning Commission, of which it also passed, being switched over to mixed-use zoning. And one of the things about the Martin Way corridor currently is that there is a certain amount of income created by having business. And when you have business there in a specific location, you get to make a much larger percentage on the sales tax. You also have the opportunity with this amount of acreage to have a large amount of units be placed on this property for living units. So as far as the concerns that anyone would have very shortly related to development of the property, it's still going to be fully subject to all zoning requirements and everything and review of the planning department or Lacey level element under the urban growth. So thank you, and we hope that you can move this forward and pass it. He's worked on it for almost 2 years. Thank you.
Anyone else that didn't get a chance to sign up who's here on this topic? Online, anyone online who wanted to provide public comment on the Martin Way land use amendment and rezone?
Looks like Stephen Fine has come off mute.
Mr. Fine, you have 3 minutes if this is what you're here for.
No, I'm just watching the hearing, and I've asked John to represent me as I'm out of state right now.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, discussion of the board. Ashley, I guess I have a question for you.
Chair, it looks like you have a hand in the audience.
Mr. Ballard, did you want to provide public comment? All right, go ahead and do that.
My name's Terry Ballard. I live in Tanglewild, and it adversely affects Tanglewild. I love it. I looked over it. Mr. Pettit is my friend. All seems to be stamped by the right people, and we welcome any new housing within Tanglewild. As far as my concern, I am the precinct committee officer for the Democrats for precinct 119, Lydia Hawk, which is Tanglewild. Thank you.
Ashley, could I ask, so at this point, we have just the proposed motion to close the hearing. This will be up for board discussion at a later point. Is that?
Yes, the board can discuss whether to include it in the December 16th comprehensive plan
decide that
amendment
today.
package. You do not have to decide that today.
Okay.
Is there going to be a follow-up session? Because I would like one.
We can, I mean, we've got the two land use rezones. There's more people signed up for the next one, so I would think between the two, we could just discuss that at a follow-up.
Happy to follow up.
All right, so all we need to do here, I'm just trying to go hearing by hearing, is to close the public hearing.
Move to close public hearing on Martin Way land use amendment and rezone.
Okay. Motion to close public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, so now we can move to our fourth and final public hearing of the afternoon, which is related to Black Lake Quarry Little Rock Land Use Amendment and Rezone. Same advisements apply. This is a hybrid public hearing. We'll go back to Ashley to provide background. You'll have 3 minutes to testify. Call the folks on Zoom, and we'll just get right into it. So this public hearing is open, and Ashley, take us away.
So this, your final public hearing, concerns the proposed Black Lake Quarry Little Rock Land Use Amendment and Rezone proposal. This is a 270-acre site located southeast of Tumwater at 4741 88th Avenue Southwest. The property is currently being used as a gravel mine and is zoned residential, 1 house per 20 acres. The applicant is requesting to rezone most of the property to rural resource industrial, which would allow for rural resource-based industrial uses such as forestry, mining, and agriculture. The applicant has revised the proposal since Planning Commission's review to exclude approximately 24 acres of critical areas near the Black River, maintaining the existing rural residential 1 house per 20 zoning there. The concerns heard since the Planning Commission reflect what was shared previously, which are concerns related to environmental protections along the Black River. It's also important to note there have been a number of comments submitted in support of the proposal as well since the Planning Commission made a recommendation. Following public testimony today, the board may close the hearing and consider including this proposal in the annual comprehensive plan amendment package scheduled for action on December 16th. Happy to answer any questions.
So on Planning Commission, you mentioned, and if we could go back to the last one real quick, Mr. Pettit mentioned it passed our Planning Commission. Was that a unanimous vote or a split vote?
It was not. It was split. There was a unanimous vote to have the board docket a proposal to look at the whole Martin Way corridor, but it was a split vote in support of the Martin Way rezone proposal.
Do you remember the vote of that?
I think it was 6-4.
And this one, just to touch on this one, I remember it was 6-3, somebody was absent, and then that absent person contacted us and said, I would have voted for it.
Yep, so it would have been
It would have been 6-4.
Yep, 6-4.
In opposition on
yes.
this one from our Planning Commission. Okay, I'm just reminding the board of that, because I happen to remember that. Okay, any other questions for Ashley? And again, that was before, as you say, that was before acres were removed from it, so slightly different proposal. Okay, then let's get into public comment. First up in the boardroom is Barry Halverson with Betsy Norton on deck.
Chair, Commissioners, I am Barry Halverson, your District 2 Planning Commissioner. I was the one that was absent from that meeting. I was at a family reunion and without internet capability. I am recommending approval of the Black Lake Quarry Rezone and Land Use Amendment CPA 24. I sent you a letter on 6 November outlining the reasons for this recommendation. Hopefully you have had time to review that, as I do not intend to regurgitate that today and waste your time. I will, however, provide some additional information. Since writing that letter, I have learned, as was just announced by Ms. Arai, that the owner of the Black Lake Quarry has offered an amendment to his initial request that was reviewed by the Planning Commission, offering additional land in excess of 20 acres as a conservation area to increase the buffer between the mining operations and the area of the Black River, something that in my view is not necessary, but strengthens the owner's already considerable efforts and desire to protect the environment and habitat of this area. As I have done with every rezone that has come before the Planning Commission since I've been a Planning Commissioner, which has been over 6 years, I have taken considerable time and effort in examining the proposal and getting boots on the ground to properly assess the situation, something that I know several of you have also done. I believe this is the only reasonable thing to do when making these important decisions. Mining operations are inherently devastating to the land. The Black Lake Quarry owners have taken extra steps to reduce environmental harm to that area by not digging out the gravel below the natural water level for that area, something that they are not required to do. Additional land can be spared mining operations if this rezone is approved. Increased job opportunities can be a result. Increased revenue can be a result. The county is currently hemorrhaging revenue resources with city annexation of high revenue value parcels. The only thing that the county can do to offset these losses is to approve smart, common sense rezones in the rural area, a space that is not available for city annexation. This is one of those rezones. And I appreciate your time and consideration, and hopefully you've had a chance to read the letter that I wrote earlier. So,
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
have a good day.
Betsy Norton with Lee Reiner on deck.
Hi, I'm Betsy Norton. I live in Olympia, and I'm representing the South Sound Bird Alliance. We're a local chapter of the National Audubon Society, active in Thurston, Mason, and Lewis counties. We've been here over 50 years, and we have over 1,200 members. We're committed to actions which protect birds and other wildlife and conserve their habitat. And it's from this perspective that South Sound Bird Alliance opposes this request for a rezone of the Black Lake Quarry parcels to rural resource industrial. From a habitat point of view, this gravel mine site is bordered on the west by the Black River Unit of the Nisqually National Wildlife Refuge, which provides wetlands, riparian, and aquatic habitat to a wide variety of animals, birds, amphibians, beaver, and fish. Within that refuge and bordering two of the mine parcels is officially designated critical habitat for the federally listed Oregon spotted frog. Importantly, the groundwater under the mine site is an important source of cool freshwater seeps, which supply the Black River and its wetlands. Since cool, clear water at relatively stable levels is critical to proper functioning of the Black River habitat, we have particular concerns about land uses on the mine site, which might cause a net reduction, flashing, or contamination of the Black River and its wetlands. Current zoning specifically protects this environmentally sensitive area, keeping it low density and rural. Rezoning to RRI directly conflicts with that purpose. Enabling RRI on these parcels would dramatically increase the allowed impervious surface, pavement and buildings, from 6% to 60%. Increased impervious surface is likely to reduce groundwater recharge and increase stormwater runoff, which we believe would have adverse effects on the Black River Refuge. More intensive industrial uses are likely to increase the risk of air, soil, and water contamination of the Black River and the nearby environment. Rezoning to industrial means that when the mine is exhausted, the site will never return to anything like its natural state. It will only be reclaimed to the extent needed for industrial development. For these reasons, we believe rezoning to RRI will result in significantly increased risk of adverse impacts to habitat, wildlife populations, and the environment. So we urge the BOCC to reject this rezone request. Please see our written comments for more detail. Thank you very much.
Is there a follow-up? Hey, I have a follow-up, Betsy. Can you repeat the impervious surface?
I said from 6% to 60%. I did the 6% calculation based on, our 1 to 20 allows 5, but then when you combine it,
And then the 60% or?
60% is RRI allows.
Okay, great, thank you.
Lee Reiner, Michael Cade on deck.
Lee Reiner, I wanted to talk about this rezone of the Black Lake Quarry from rural 120 to rural resource industrial. Here we go again. Essentially, people say, oh, it's just the law. We're just applying the law. Well, many of us listened to the hearing examiner when he was 5 days of testimony regarding the Tumwater Airport sitting on the critical area aquifer for Tumwater. And we had all these specialists from all of the United States fly in, and talk about this critical area aquifer underneath the airport and how it may or may not be affected by all this activity that we humans wanted to put on top. So here we go again. It's before the county commissioners, and you're going to decide, and we're going to see which way you go. Bottom line, we're talking about water, and we're talking about water quality. And, oh, everybody forgets it. It's just the law. It's just the law. No, it's not the law. It's the interpretation of the law. And you say, oh, we're only going to allow non-lawyers to make the decision, non-legal folks applying the law. No, we're having scientists give testimony regarding water quality, aquifers underneath the ground, how long the aquifer is going to last. Many times we don't know the answer. That's why we come to you, because we respect you and we trust you to make decisions. A lot of times you just don't have answers. These are environmental questions. These are very complicated questions. Many of you have spent hours and hours listening to these issues. And here we go again, Black Lake Quarry, a beautiful area right next to the river. Our river might be affected because industrialization right next to this very, very special area, which is right next to the Nisqually Wildlife Refuge. Have you ever been out to the Nisqually Wildlife Refuge? That's a quality of life issue. A lot of us here in Thurston County care about these issues. Yet Tacoma, it's too late for them. They can't care about it anymore. It's completely paved over. Well, we're getting to that point, aren't we? I remember being in this room when we had a discussion about the mining issue. A lot of us, wanted to keep mines controlled here in Thurston County. I think these mining laws were opened up, and now we have a lot of people applying for mining applications. And here, this is just one example of it, changing our county just to be a gravel pit. We are a great big gravel pit. We're going to destroy all the beautiful areas that we have for our quality of life. We're going to impact the water quality. We're going to impact the air quality. We're going to impact people's lives out there in rural county. No, we're going to turn this into another Tacoma, and it's the law. No, I disagree with that premise. I believe the interpretation of these very difficult environmental issues comes into play with your decisions. You don't have to be a lawyer to know this. You can just use common sense. Thank you.
Michael Cade with David Toyer on deck.
Thank you. Michael Cade, Executive Director of the Economic Development Council. I live at 3526 Holiday Drive in Olympia. I'm actually going to take out half of my testimony I was going to provide to you. I'm going to reference Planning Commissioner Halverson's comments. I thought it was very eloquent and very on point as to what the issue is here. Our organization has been in support of the Black Lake Quarry rezone amendments and have been on record in support of the proposal since at least 2022. Our support is based upon a long history of working with the proponent on the site, understanding how the local economy works, waxes and wanes, and moves in and out. Their use and control of the site and the long-range positive impacts that this action would have upon our region's economy is significant. The rezone to rural resource industrial supports the existing mineral resource operation while allowing portion of the mine site to be reused in support of rural industries. Such a rezone would provide Thurston County with opportunity to realize new investment, locate new employment opportunities close to existing residential areas, and to create needed tax revenues. It would potentially represent an alleviation of pressure of land conversions elsewhere in the county, which locations are likely to be further from available infrastructure. It is located short distance from Interstate 5 with available water and other utilities to support employment activities. I'm going to stop my formal comments there, and I'm going to reference the work that I've done in my 30 years in economic development. There's been no less than 10 of similar sites that I've been working with. Every time it's been a positive thing for the community, for the economy. I want to ask that your deliberations, again, thank you for your deliberations. Thank you for your leadership. These are not easy questions and tasks be set before you, but I thank you for your consideration, positive positive action on the request. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cade. David Toyer with Bob Metzger on deck.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. David Toyer, Toyer Strategic Advisors. We're located up in Everett, Washington. We happen to be the land use and economic development consultant for the applicant of this rezone. We've provided some previous letters to the Planning Commission that are in your record, which outline a lot of the reasons for this particular rezone proposal. A number of those are, one of the things we've focused on here all along is that this is a mining site that was originally received a DNR permit in 1980. The first special use permit for mining activities on the site was issued in 85, and multiple mining permits were consolidated in 2018 for this entire site. And even in those approvals, phase 7 of the mining operations is actually mining below the water table. Those things were something that the current owner of the site does not want to do and would rather look for other opportunities to have economic use of that property in the future to the benefit of the county. Mining is a heavy and intense industrial activity in and of itself. It completely transforms the landscape that it tears up in the process of getting at the resource it is extracting. And we think that, there are opportunities here to limit mining in the future, and then also to transition and reclaim some of the mining areas for other economic purposes. So we really would encourage your support of this rezone. As was noted by staff, we heard through a lot of the testimony over the last couple of years concern about the critical areas on this site that are closest to the Black River. And that's why we've proposed to exclude those from the rezone action. They're already protected. They've been previously identified in numerous wetland studies that were part of original permitting processes. So we think it's fairly well established that those need to be protected. But just to give that added sense of security to the community, the public, and others, we wanted to exclude those 24 acres from this particular rezone proposal. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Perhaps could you, if it does remain a mine, are you able to speak to the length of the mining operations permit? And if it was to stay in mine status forever, what reclamation efforts would be required in perpetuity?
Yeah, I can't speak to the reclamation plan. I'm not that familiar with it, but I have, in working with the applicant a number of times, we've had conversations about the useful life of the mine and how long that could be. It's variable based on the economy, right? If there's construction and building and other activities that require gravel resources, then obviously, the mining activity happens quicker. But it's probably somewhere between 18 and 30 years that mining could continue on that site. Just depending, again, on how much mining activity happens in a given year, and that's influenced by, the economy and other factors. So perhaps my client or one of his other representatives can speak to what the reclamation would look like otherwise. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Bob Metzger with Rhonda Larson Kramer on deck.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Bob Metzger. I live in Delphi Valley at the headwaters of the Black River. Been there for about 25 years. A little bit of history. This is not the first time that the Black Lake Quarry property has submitted a request for expanded industrial development. Those of you who were in the county in the early 2000s will remember a bunch of yard signs popping up all over the county in the Black Lake corridor and in Little Rock opposing Quality Rock Products special use permit. And the proposal for an asphalt plant and a concrete plant in the current quarry site. Let's see, there were frequent letters to the editor opposing the SUP and dozens of citizens testifying at public meetings just like this. Again, in opposition to the expanded industrial development. The old SUP request was a really bad idea for the same reasons that the current rezone proposal is a really bad idea. Industrial development immediately adjacent to a national wildlife refuge is simply inappropriate. Both the old SUP request and the current rezone request would cause adverse effects on coho salmon, birds, other wildlife species from loss of habitat, changes to hydrology, toxic chemicals, additional lights, and noise. Sue Danver and the Black Hills Audubon Society spent years, untold hours of volunteer effort, and over $60,000 for experts and lawyer fees to fight the SUP proposal in front of the hearing examiner, then in front of the commissioners, and they finally won their appeal in Superior Court. That win ultimately resulted in a settlement agreement between Black Hills and QRP that limited the industrial development on the parcel by precluding construction of asphalt plants and concrete plants. As part of the settlement agreement, QRP placed a restrictive covenant on all 4 of the parcels in the current rezone request, prohibiting the construction of asphalt and concrete plants in perpetuity. All we were trying to do was to protect the Black River and the adjacent wildlife refuge from degradation caused by inappropriate industrial uses, and to see that the area was restored as functioning habitat once the gravel mining was complete. That was over 20 years ago. The environmental concerns are still valid. The hard-fought agreement to limit industrial uses is still in place. In effect, the current rezone is far worse than the original SUP proposal because it would do away with the required reclamation of the existing gravel mines and ensure that the parcel will never again provide any usable habitat for birds or wildlife. I ask you to honor history, honor environmental values, honor Sue Danver's legacy. Please reject the rezone request again. Thank you.
Rhonda Larson Kramer, Phyllis Farrell on deck, who I think had to leave, but call her name.
My name is Rhonda Larson Kramer. I live in Olympia. I'm speaking in opposition of the proposed rezone to the Black Lake Quarry to RRI. This proposal poses a serious and irreversible threat to one of the most ecologically valuable landscapes in the county. And there are several problems with this rezone that aren't clear to when you first look at it. First, the reclamation will never again be possible if this rezone is approved. Across Washington, reclaimed mines have become valuable wildlife areas once mining is complete. That outcome is only possible under the current zoning. A few years ago, this board heard an appeal of the mine's proposed expansion. The hearing examiner was wrong in that case when he applied the law. There were no policy issues involved. The appeal by the residents were not asking this board to overturn the law. They were asking this board to fix the hearing examiner's decision because it had gone against the law. And this board reversed. And they found that the hydraulic connection between the site's groundwater and the Black River was a part of that reason to reverse that decision by the hearing examiner that was illegal. That reversal was possible only because the permit was discretionary, so this is really key in this case. And of course, it was only possible because this board got involved. Examiners mess up all the time on the law. The board was there to fix it. Even if the board were not available, even if the change that this board is trying to make and get out of appeals, even if that had already been made, this is still a really important point, is that because it's a discretionary special use permit type of application under current zoning, the public had input. That input is going to be taken away if you rezone. The rezone takes away oversight. That level of unrestricted industrial entitlement is wholly inappropriate here in this particular area. For decades, agencies and landowners have worked to build a habitat corridor along the Black River to reduce fragmentation and restore water quality. The quarry sits within that same corridor, exactly where connectivity matters most. And so I'm asking you to keep the existing zoning so reclamation becomes possible someday. That'll never happen if the rezoning is approved. This is an important system and it should be protected for generations to come. Thank you.
Ms. Kramer? Ma'am,
Rhonda?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had a question.
Oh, yes.
What year was that decision you were referencing where the board overturned?
I can't remember, but I can provide that if that's allowed for me to find and allow that.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
email it to me or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 2018 is.
I was gonna say, I don't remember it. I took office in January 2019.
Oh, you did? Okay, there you go.
But yes,
Before your
right
time.
before. Okay, thank you. Phyllis had to leave. I saw her walk out. So that's the folks I had. Oh, yeah, I'll get there. Anyone else in the boardroom? Mr. Parsons.
Hi, Commissioners. Thank you for everything that you've done on all fronts, budgetary and all the other land use and other issues. And thank you, staff, and I appreciate all the work you've done. I didn't sign up to speak tonight or today, but I live in Thurston County. I've lived in Thurston County for 63 years. Not to give my age away or anything, but I've been a part of this community. I'm a third generation. We've done a lot of things in this community. We own land. We've acquired land. When we got involved in this gravel pit, it was in disarray from the previous owner, which was Quality Rock. You'll need to read the special use permit, the expansion of the permit. It was purely an expansion of a gravel mine. It wasn't a land use. It wasn't a rezone to industrial. We got involved because the owner's dad called me and he says, I need to get my son out of here. He's made a mess of what he's been doing. And I got involved to correct it, fix it, and take the property over. We've mined for 35, 40 years in different parts of the county. This particular site has some really good values as a gravel source. They're hard to come by. It also has some major economic value to the farmers, to the miners, and the timber industry in Thurston County. There's currently 50 developable acres of real resource industrial land in Thurston County. You've got farmers, I've talked to them, that have to go to different parts of different counties to get products, to get equipment products, fertilizer, feed. We don't have a infrastructure set up for what we've pushed to get agriculture as a priority in this county. We are looking at this as a transition from mining. We have the right to mine, 100 feet into the water table, of which we own the water rights. We have a senior water right in that area. We're very particular how we protect our aquifer because we're vested in it. But more importantly, we've got to transition at a certain point where there's still time to do it. And we felt that by not mining for the next 40 years, which is to answer your question, that we can easily transition out, not go into the water table, preserve that site, that, you know, into the aquifer, and slowly transition. It's going to take 20 years to develop this property out. It's not going to happen overnight. But it is going to give other small business affordability to keep their manufacturing business, their truss company, their own sand and gravel products company in Thurston County, and create revenue for Thurston County, which is desperately needed. Thank you so much for everything you've done. I appreciate your time.
Mr. Parsons, before you go, did you have any information? There was a question from Commissioner Fournier about the reclamation requirements. Can you answer that question?
Yeah, reclamation is an important guideline that if once you have a gravel site, you have your engineers, your geologist, your hydrologist. They do a study. They'll come up with a mining plan for that site. So they'll say, we'll do a phase mining program. So you'll start in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5. They'll work their way through the site, DNR, and then they'll have the reclamation. Steep slopes are resolved, and they're down to a 2-to-1 slope required by the state. Hydroseeding, reseeding, all that is part of the reclamation. So DNR will come out or be part of the process, because that's ultimately your permit, is where you get your permit, and they assign a value to that. So we hear all this reclamation as a major, you know, you're going to walk away from reclamation. No, we're not. That doesn't happen. DNR establishes a value and a cost. If they had to come in and take over that site on any gravel pit in Thurston County, they'll say, here's what it's going to cost us. We had to come in and correct this site if the owner abandoned it. In our particular case on that site, they established a cost of $461,000. That's the total cost the DNR puts on the reclamation of that site. And in return, I put up a bond, or I put up cash, and that stays with the property until it is reclaimed at whatever, you know, at whatever time we decide to reclaim it. So hope that answers your question on that.
I'm still just trying to picture what the end of the life, if the rezone is not allowed, what does the end of the life of that site look like if you're allowed to continue the heavy mining
Sure.
operation?
Sure.
30, 40 years from now, does it turn into some sanctuary? Or does it remain a giant hole in the ground? What does it look like to us?
It depends, but on this particular site, since if we did go into the final phase, which is into the water table, you're gonna have a water body that we have to protect from the public. So when we leave, that has to be a fenced, secured water body around the entire water. And you're gonna have steep slopes that are 2-to-1 slopes, and it's not gonna be open to the public. It's not a public feature. If you look at Grand Mound by aerial, for example, you look at the aerial photos of Grand Mound, you see square lakes. And they look nice, you know, habitat, yeah, there's some birds, you know, that can use that. But it's square lakes that the public has no access to. They're too dangerous. The private owner can't take the liability, so they're just fenced off. There'll never be anything ever. So they do turn back to the the water of the state after the permit is expired. So they are considered a wetland at that point. And nothing can be done to fill them back in or partially create some kind of value to the community. They're just these lakes that nobody can use. So.
Thank you. So anyone else in the boardroom? And I'll get to the folks online. Mr. Pettit, go ahead.
I haven't truly studied out the issue with Black Lake Quarry. I do have to compliment, I've happened to know this gentleman since he was about this tall. And we have to place decisions based upon good principles and everything. I do want to note that understand environmental concerns, and I think that you have a very good example of somebody who understands and is concerned environmentally with this project, even offering another change, a revision. And then on top of it, one of my favorite places to go, which is going to sound a little off track, but I don't know if any of you have ever gone to Birch Gardens up in Vancouver Island. Okay, I don't know if you know what that was. It was a gravel pit. It was a gravel pit, and now it's known as one of the most beautiful places in the Western continent. In other words, a lot of it has to do with how you take care of things and where you go with it, and and of course, I'm very concerned about the environment too. And I will say any further development, once again, much like the other project I talked about earlier, any actual development still requires a permitting process, a process that gets reviewed. It's not as simple as just saying, I got the permit, I got the zoning, I get to go do what I want. No, it still requires a full review and a process involved with development. Check with your CPAD director, happens to be here, about that issue. Because you want to be worried about the environment, there's your question mark. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in the boardroom? I'm going to go to the folks online. Janine Lindsay.
Chair,
Yes.
I just want to do a time check. I know you had to excuse yourself.
Yeah, I just sent some texts. I'm supposed to be chairing a board meeting at Lot, and there may be a quorum problem, but I'm going to stick this out because I think we've just got 4 folks, and I want to see this through. So thank you, Commissioner Mejia. Ms. Lindsay, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm against this rezone for a myriad of reasons, many of which have popped up even from the pro argument tonight in the room. This is a critically significant area. Gravel mines are only located, or mining operations are only located in very specific areas for really good reason. Your first speaker tonight and the Economic Development Council speaker both pointed to the devastation of mining, and they were right. This would be a large expansion of an existing mine, and from what I heard the owners say about what it would end up being after many years, it sounded like a blight to me. It didn't sound like it was going to turn out like Butchert Gardens. So I would be very disappointed to see the commissioners make a decision based also on any kind of economic interest, which was pointed out by one of the speakers tonight, that this would be a great economic interest for, the county itself because they're lacking funds. And I guess my final point would be that that this is one of the reasons that we'd like you to keep what we were talking about earlier in terms of the appeal process, because all the time jurisdictions make determinations of non-significance for environmental projects. We have a legacy toxic pollution in Butt Inlet of such epic proportions that we can't even get the Army Corps of Engineers to dredge. We're left with toxic legacy pollution all the time because jurisdictions often defer to the difficulty of cleanups. Despite all the good intentions by the people that have spoken tonight, I think the county has to make a decision that this is a devastating proposal, and that they can't be, at this point in time, jeopardizing any water resources in a time of vanishing water resources, and we have to protect that at great cost to economic development at times. And this is one of those cases. So please do not allow a rezone such as this in such a critical area. Thank you.
Next, can somebody help me with the
I have a
name?
question for
Yeah.
staff real quick. Ashley, I've heard a couple different, I'm hearing different things and different facts, and this is not an expansion of any mining operation is what I heard in the beginning. And I'm hearing some confusion from public testimony. There's no proposal that expands any mining operation. Is that correct?
That is correct. There is no current proposal to expand the mine.
Okay, this is not a proposal to expand a mining operation.
No.
Just to say that again?
There is no proposal to expand the mining operation.
Okay, this is a proposal to rezone it to something that is less intensive potentially?
The reason would allow an expanded list of uses.
And if we, and the alternative is to continue allowing mining operations for the next 30 years?
That is correct. There is
Essentially.
currently a permit in place that authorizes the mining operation that is
Okay,
there today.
but we're not, there's no proposal that expands any mining operation?
No, there is no proposal currently to expand a mining operation.
Okay, that's clear to me now, thank you.
Okay, I guess I just need to respond to that since it was on my comment. You're talking about a rezone of a lot of land and they are going to have the ability to mine on it. So what, I don't exactly understand the nuance that you're talking about here. And maybe we don't understand this, so maybe there's a better explanation we need on this.
I will just briefly, and we can maybe connect offline. So the mining is happening, has been happening, will continue to happen. The rezone would then allow for some other things that, right now it's mining or houses on 1 to 20 acres. The rezone would allow some other things to happen, so the mining could stop or partially stop or stop sooner. It would, and parts of that could be used to do other things. It wouldn't go, so it would give some options to the applicant, the property owner, to do some things besides mining that would be connected to a rural resource, agriculture. It's not anything, it wouldn't be a big warehouse or anything like that. There are certain limits in what rural resource industrial zoning permits. Has to be connected to forestry, agriculture, different types of businesses that have a connection to those resource industry. And that could potentially then be done on this land, and mining could stop or partially stop. That, before it hits the water table, before it becomes, lakes. And the blight was the word that you think you used in your comment that you heard described. The goal or the proposal is to create a pathway to avoid that.
But continued mining is one of those options, correct?
That's true either way. They have a permit. There's nothing that the county commissioners could do to stop the mining operation. That's not an option on the table. I have to go to the next speakers. We're getting late, and I know Commissioner Grant is going to transition to virtual.
Transition virtually, so I'll
Okay,
still be.
I'll just continue with public comment.
I'm going to try to finish this out, but I can't read the next person's name.
Beowulf.
Beowulf Brower.
Been waiting to say that all night.
Mr. Brower, you got 3 minutes.
Those spot on pronunciation that I'd say is rare. All right, start mine here, so I'll go over. I rise in opposition to proposed rezone at Black Lake Quarry. I do so not out of opposition to progress, but out of respect for the land and waters that sustain us. As one of the hunters and fishermen who frequent the Black River, I'm deeply concerned about the large increase in impervious surface this development would bring. When more water runs off the land, it carries more with it, impacts the wetlands that buffer floods and sustain the river's food chain. These wetlands are not unused ground, but living systems that protect our communities and wildlife alike. At the same time as all this, the county is developing a new trail along the Gate Belmore route, which is meant to bring more people to experience the Black River and associated wetlands. This proposal would trade a renewable resource in recreation and tourism for a short-lived extractive one, undermining years of effort by groups like CNLM, Ducks Unlimited, the Audubon Society, and the Trails Tribe, as well as many others. I urge you to protect what makes this place valuable, not just for today, but for those who come after. And that's the extent of what I have written, but still have plenty of time. So I would strongly encourage any of you who have not done so to hop in a kayak or a canoe or any sort of vessel and hop on the Black River and experience it firsthand, because you may come away feeling maybe different than I sense you do. One other thing I'd like to touch on that I wasn't planning on, I hear you tell that the mine is not slated to expand, and this proposal will not have anything to do with the mine expanding. If the mine is slated to continue for 40 years, I don't know if you know how a hole works, but in order to continue to take things out of the hole, you do have to make the hole bigger. I'm not a mining engineer, but that seems to pass the smell test. As far as I'm concerned. Thank you much, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thanks, sir. Mr. White, you're up, 3 minutes.
Okay, my name's Gordon White, and my comments tonight are informed by my experience as a farmer down in this area in the 80s and 90s. During that same time, I was a planner for the county commissioners and Thurston Regional Planning. I brought forward land use, natural resource, water resources information to assist the board on land use and water quality supply issues. I also mapped mineral resources. And it was the first, that was what was used in the first overlay zone that granted the allowance of gravel mining where the resource is, even if there were sensitive prairies there, there were farms there was forest there, because it's a critical resource, as we know. First, though, I want to thank the good work of Claire Swearingen, Associate Planner, and her high-quality staff report that informed the review of this rezone before the Planning Commission. She helped bring examples from DNR on reclamation sites that have become useful ecological and community amenities. Some reclaimed sites have unfenced lakes open to the public because they're either been purchased by or they're managed by local groups that manage them and allow that public access. So obviously, I oppose the proposed proposal to remove 247 acres from the Thurston County Rural Residential Zone and put it into industrial uses, rural resource industrial uses. And I've been watching the site for about 35 years. Due to my experience in that regard, it was always the bottom line as it went back and forth in different lawsuits that you've heard about, different challenges, that it would always be reclaimed. And yes, it could be a long ways off, as has been pointed out. At the end of the day, though, the give back to the community, the give back to the what was there before is reclamation. And there are lots of different styles of reclamation. At one reclamation site, there's now a national PGA golf course, right? Chambers Bay, former gravel mine. And so in the long run, reclamation is a key element for giving back to what has been taken. And yes, it is a very destructive thing to the environment. And no doubt the current owner is doing a good job, is doing fine with that. And at the same time, in the long run, it needs to go back to being the resource and fit into the conservation zoning that is there now. It's really important in terms of the future of the community. As a farmer, I got exposed to the loss of where we would go for our supplies. It used to be Rochester. Now it's the Twin Cities, Centralia, Chehalis, and it's a little bit further. There was, by the mid 80s, there was nothing in North County left really in terms of resources, places we would go for supplies. I don't think this is a good location for that. There's no proof of it as being something that would be useful for a forest products use or an agriculture products use. In fact, the rezone is just speculative, and they're pushing off into the future a more intensive environmental review on something they may propose. What we do know is just up the street, Costco is expanding.
I need you to wrap up, sir.
Okay, I'll finish there. Good. Thank you for the time.
It's you. You have 3 minutes.
I'm done.
Lynn Fitzhugh.
Oh,
You're up.
thank you. I think that there was a very confusing interchange between Janine Lindsay and Wayne Fournier. I don't think what the environmental community is up in arms about today is the fact that mining has been going on there and is continuing to go on there. It's really that the rezone will prevent future reclamation by allowing industrial uses that will be permanent. So that's really the issue, is about whether this is ever reclaimed or not. I was not originally intending to testify today, but several other things came in front of my attention today that made me kind of pull back and look at a much bigger picture, which I want to invite you to look at right at the moment. So about 6 years ago, the port bought property on both sides of I-5, 120 acres on both sides of I-5 at 92nd, cleared 120 acres of trees. Then we have this ongoing mining thing going on here. We have the port talking about doing various development at the airport that will take out endangered species habitat. And now today it was brought to my attention that there's some new project being proposed at 88th and Kimmy that would develop 22 acres by clear cutting 2,300 trees off of that property. And you know, all of these four things that I just talked about are within 10 miles of each other as the crow flies. So, you know, these things come before you as individual projects, and people who have to do the permitting for them look at them as individual projects. And yet, this area of the county is getting creamed environmentally. And I don't know what the answer to that particular problem is, but I just say to you, we have got to do some big picture thinking here, because as this much development is coming to our county, and then we parcel by parcel destroy our environment, this is a disaster. So we've got to find some better way of seeing how the dots connect. That's it, and I see Loretta has her hand up.
Loretta Sepinen, you're up.
Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I just want to clarify that changing from R1 to 20 to rural resource industrial does not expand the uses. It just changes the uses. In fact, it decreases the types of uses. In RRI, you no longer can put houses on the land without a special use permit. You can't, of course, do ag, or you can't do timber without a special use permit. It's just industrial land. So we aren't just expanding the uses, we are changing the uses. As I've written, I oppose this change to away from the sensitive zoning that is in the area, and that should be maintained. Thank you.
I don't see any other hands. Are there other folks online who would like to provide testimony, comment? Okay, I think we've reached the end. Thanks, everybody, for the comment. We do need to close the public hearing. We've lost two commissioners, so I think we should, or one, and then Commissioner Grant's online. I don't really have time to discuss this because I'm due to chair a meeting at Lot in about 6 minutes. So if we could just close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing on item 3, Black Lake Quarry Little Rock rezone and land use amendment.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Public hearing is closed, and there will be a follow-up. Thanks, everybody.